Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan.
Abstain.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Do I have a motion of approving the minutes? I was not here, so I can't do that.
One correction. The meeting is held at City Hall. It says Conference Room B, so you may want to make that correction.
So do I have a motion with that correction?
With that correction, I so move.
Chairman
Second.
Cox. Okay.
Now.
Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan.
Abstain.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. We're going to move into our public comments items on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the Commission on matters that are within the Commission's jurisdiction and do not appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on any items that do not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name and address. We'll now open it up for public comment of items not on the agenda. Seeing a mad rush to the microphone, we'll close the public comment section at 6:04. Mayor, you're jealous, right? Okay, moving on to item 7, public hearing, variance request 18-01, a request by the property owners for a variance in the setback requirements within an R1 zone that requires carport stake, direct access from the street, or provided a minimum of 20 feet of parking space between the structure and the front of the street. Side property line to allow for a carport structure remain in the property located at 712 West Sonia Avenue, APN 067-433-01-06. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners, we have a staff report before you that was prepared by our prior Community and Economic Development Manager. I must preface this report by indicating that current staff is not the author of this staff report. We're just setting in right now for the prior Community Economic Development Manager. What we have before you is a variance request. The homeowners requested a variance for a deviation from the current municipal code to allow a carport structure to remain in its current location. The background: on September 28, 2017, the owners of said property purchased a carport from California All Steel to be installed on their property. The homeowners were not issued a permit for the installation by city staff. On March 26th of 18, code enforcement inspected the property and drafted a letter citing the code violation. The letter provided the homeowners 2 weeks to remedy this situation by April 4th of 18. The carport still has not been issued a permit, nor has it been removed. On May 14th of 2018, the homeowners have submitted a variance application to the city. What you have before you tonight is a public hearing. What you also have in your packet is a copy of a resolution. If the Planning Commission does decide to approve the variance, there is a resolution which would allow you to do so. I should mention that there are letters in your packet of protest. I believe, in my count, I believe there were 3 letters in which area residents, not being able to attend tonight, had submitted letters objecting to allowing the variance. Staff has visited the site. We did verify setback dimensions and did verify indeed that the structure does not meet current code. There is not a building permit, and there is an active code violation at hand. I might mention that the staff's recommendation for this variance is to deny the request based upon public testimony in objection to the approval of the variance, the lack of compliance to the municipal code, both for setback requirements as well as it does encroach into the public right-of-way. With that, staff's recommendation would be to open the public hearing and hear public testimony, and along with staff's recommendation to deny. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner comments? You want to do that first? Okay. Can the applicants come up to the mic, please? So do you have questions for the applicant?
I wanted to hear from the public.
Oh, from the public?
I have a question. Ma'am, did you try to go to the city and apply for a permit for the
I
structure?
did come to the city in September 19, 2017, and asked about a permit for a carport over the driveway. At that time, I was told that they do not give permits for carports. And the reason they told me they didn't give permits is because it obstruct the pedestrians walking on sideways, the traffic out on the street. They can turn carports into garages, so they don't give permits. At that time, I asked her, I said, so are you telling me that all these carports that are over driveways here in Ridgecrest are illegal? And she said, there's only one house here in Ridgecrest that has a permit. I said, okay, so you're telling me that all the other houses are illegal. And she just reiterated the fact that there was only one house that had a permit. And I said, well, how did they get the permit? And she said, well, they had to fill out an application and pay $1,210. I said, $1,210? She said, yes. So I asked her again, are you saying the other homes are illegal? And she just said, well, there's only one house here that I'm aware of. And it in writing that if they sell their home, they have to take the carport down before they can sell it. The consultant, Allstill, that was selling the carports, asked them about permits. They said no permit is required. They put them up all over Ridgecrest, and no permits are required. Okay. Well, talking with the city, talking with the consultant, I'm thinking there's no permit required because I was not provided pertinent information that should have been given to me at the time I spoke to the city. And that was the fact that carports are not allowed for that, the reasons that she gave me, but also because there's a code by regulation. I was never told there was a code regulation. Had I been told of that code regulation, there is no way in the world we would have invested the money that we did to put that structure over our driveway. We don't have money to throw away. We would not have done that. She did not tell me that. So I left there with the thought that the city had a blind eye to the carports that were up. They weren't taking any action, and it was like an implied consent. They wasn't doing anything. Me and my husband have lived in that house for 23 years. Thought we had good rapport with all the neighbors. Before we put that structure down, we went around and talked to neighbors within the immediate area about what we had considered doing. They had no problem. I even showed them a picture of the structure that we put up. They had no problem. There was one neighbor that lived in the immediate area that we didn't talk to, wasn't at home at that time, and we did not go back out to speak to that particular individual. But there's just no way we would have put that structure up, knowing that all it would take is one complaint from a neighbor that wasn't happy with it, or the code officer driving by and noticing that that structure did not meet the regulations that they had in place. There's no way we would have put that structure up knowing those two things would cause us to throw away the money like that. We would not have done that. For 20 years, we have put covers over our cars. Neighbors have seen us out there, 2-3 times a week, taking covers off, putting covers on. 20, 30 years ago, that was fine. We were younger then. I'm 65, he's 75, getting up and down off that concrete, putting covers and tying them down, locking them down. Health doesn't allow us to do that anymore. So, riding around Ridgecrest, we started seeing all these carports. Say, maybe that's an idea. Maybe we should do that. That's when we started looking into it. That's when I came to the city and asked about a permit. I wasn't provided the information that was needed in order for me to know that structures were not allowed. I just wasn't provided it. So we went ahead and purchased it. Go ahead.
Can you give me your name and your husband's name?
My name is Joyce Carey.
Okay.
My husband is Will Carey, Jr., and we live at 712 Sonia Avenue.
Okay, can I ask you some questions? Jessica, did you get your question
sir.
answered? Okay. So we have here a copy of the All-Steel contract that you engaged with. Okay. One of the conditions says things you should know that they provided you. Okay. In the things that you should know, it is the role and responsibility of the customer to check for permits or restrictions regarding installation or product. Some states and local ordinances may require a foundation prior to the installation. California All-Steel Carports, Inc. does not install foundations, and all costs associated with foundations shall be the sole responsibility of the purchaser. There will be a $100 extra charge for any custom orders, and they're non-refundable. So it's in the city of Ridgecrest. If anything is built that's bigger than a 10 by 10, 100 square feet requires a building permit of any kind. Now, part of my concern is whether or not All-Steel recommended that you come down to the city. Did they recommend that you come down to the city and get a permit?
They didn't recommend that I come down.
Okay. So for the public's education as well as yours, I'm going to use your picture here, if I can, and I'm going to stand. And we're obligated. We're stuck with certain things. There's things that we can and we cannot do. But for example, when we measure back from here, from the face of curb, we go back 10 feet. That is a public utility easement. It is not private, it's a public utility easement. Then the setback from that 10 feet is 20 feet back before a structure. So you're 30 feet back from face of curb before you're legal. And so you can kind of see where this is. The other concerns that I would have and maybe point out to you is, although this is a beautiful structure, each one of these pillars, when you're backing out, can obstruct traffic. You might miss somebody. So when your neighbor's backing out, he has to look through those posts too. And that could give him a blind spot and maybe cause an accident. So here's where I'm going with this, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions before we turn it over to the public. In order to be granted a variance, there are 5 conditions that have to be met. Not 1, not 2, 5. Have you read those?
No.
Okay. So number 1, in order to, the strict and literal interpretation and enforcement of a specific regulation would result partially or practically difficult and unnecessary physical hardship inconsistent with the objectives of the zoning ordinance. So would it create an unnecessary physical hardship? I don't think so. That there are exceptional and extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to its intended use of the property, which do not apply generally to the parties classified in the same zoning districts. Okay? the strict and literal interpretation and enforcement of a specified regulation would deprive the applicant of privilege enjoyed by owners of other properties classified in the same zone and district. 4, that the granting of the variance will not, constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations of the properties classified in the same zoning district. 5, that the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare,
Or material.
or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity. So, in those particular items, my question for you is, can you qualify for all 5 of those? In other words, we're asked to give you a variance, and so if you qualified for those 5, then we could probably grant a variance.
Personally, I feel that we can qualify. I understand that the structure does not meet the distance from the street, but with it being up in our carport, the only car that would be pulling out would be the car, the house to the east of us. That's really the only driveway that would be affected by the structure coming out of their property, if there's any obstruction. But because of the gap, the wideness in there, I don't see where those poles that are standing there causes that much obstruction of view with the amount of space that's open there. I don't feel that there is any. And the cars driving on the street are to be looking on the street as they're driving, not at my structure, to look through my structure to see where they're going. So,
Well, I understand what you're saying. I live on a street that doesn't have any of those obstructions, and I come out of my driveway, and we have a school down the street from us, and we have traffic, and sometimes I don't see I get halfway in the street before I see the oncoming car. Anyway, it's semantics. I'm just saying we're limited by some of the things that we can or cannot do. So I would like to know if the commissioners have any questions for the applicants.
Who did you talk to when you came to the city to inquire about a permit?
The secretary that sits out in the
Did you happen to catch her name? A name?
Doreen, I believe.
Doreen.
What's your name? I'm sorry, I don't.
Doreen.
Doreen Morgan.
Am I allowed to ask?
Yes. Doreen, would you mind coming up, please?
When people come seeking permits, is there any literature? Do we have any type of system where a logbook is kept or information is given to the applicants?
I do have a copy of the zoning codes in my drawer, but I repeat to them, no structures in the 20-foot setback whatsoever. And I explained, as she said, why you cannot have a structure because of the oncoming traffic and the blockage. So I specifically said no carports or structures in the front setback. And the carport I was talking about that was approved was on Balsam, and that was a permit that I accidentally had granted, and it was within the side setbacks. It was not 20 feet in the front.
But no literature exchanged hands?
No literature, just
Okay.
explanations.
Okay. Because I know I've been serving on this commission for going on 4 years.
There are a lot of times I will
Let me
hand draw
finish.
something
Let me finish.
for them.
Been going on 4 years, and unless the staff prints it out for me, or I go to the code book that the city provided for me, there's no way to know these codes. So I was just asking, was any
Right.
literature given? What's the process of your desk? really is what I was after.
A lot of times, if they really don't understand, I will draw a picture showing house, setback, front yard, and explain it.
Thank you.
So then what we're hearing is a contradiction. We're hearing the applicant say they were not provided any specifics on the municipal code and the setbacks, and you're saying that you did.
I did
provide
not
it.
recite the exact code number, but I did tell her the setbacks does not allow structure, the 20 feet setback.
Were they provided this information prior to construction?
Yes.
Any other commissioner questions?
I have a question. You said September 19th you came to the city and they advised you to apply for a variance then. Is that correct?
No, she didn't apply. She didn't advise me to apply for a variance on the 19th.
Okay.
I asked her how did the people get the permit, and she told me they had to fill out an application. She didn't even say it was for a variance or inspection. She didn't say that. She just said they had to fill out an application, and it cost $1,210. And I said, $1,210, and she said yes. But she did not say what it was for. So I'm thinking that was for the permit. You know, had I known that there was, like I say, a regulation in place, the carport wouldn't have never been put up. That's just the bottom line. It wouldn't have never been put up. We wouldn't have invested that kind of money and put something up knowing we'd have been told that it has to meet certain regulations, and it's not. We don't operate like that. We don't do that. I was not told that. I'm sorry. I went around town, seen all these other ones, and I'm thinking it must be okay.
Mark told us about it.
You know, and yeah, you know, the person that was selling them said it was okay. Even up through the February 24th of February of 2018, he told us he had set in at the city a 4-hour meeting, and they had discussed the carports. And the city said they were done with carports. They wasn't dealing with them no more. So we didn't have anything to worry about. I mean, this was told to us throughout from September to March of putting that structure up. That's what we were led to believe. It just wouldn't have been put up. We wouldn't have invested that kind of money.
Looking at the requirements for a variance, I think had that happened in September or October, I don't think that you could have got a variance, then we wouldn't be here. That's what I was kind of getting at. But
Any other questions from the commissioners?
So I do have a question. So you do have 2-car garage, right, in your house?
Actually, it's probably 1.5 because inside our garage they had built a workbench and stuff that takes part of the area.
Understand. I mean, many people do that. I just wanted to clarify that point. So my next question is, despite the fact that city has refused you the permit, you still went ahead and built the shed, right?
They said a permit was not issued for carports. So we went ahead and built it, not knowing that there was a code regulation in place for structures. Did not know that.
So
We
let
just-
me
we did not-
clarify that with Ms. Doreen.
We did. I'm sorry. I know what
Carports require, it doesn't matter the size, any carport patio cover does require a permit. I was not allowing you to have a permit because it was in the front setback, as I kept explaining.
I'm sorry, but the code, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Our code doesn't say it can't be in the front. It just specifies if it is in the front, how far it needs to be from the street. Correct?
20 feet setback, no structure.
But that's not what you just said.
What did I say?
You said you weren't going to issue it to her because you knew it was going to be in the front of her house.
That's what she told me.
But you didn't tell her.
I explained to her no structure in the front setback. It didn't matter if it was a carport, another garage, no structure.
But that's not what the code says.
Front setback. She cannot be.
No
you cannot
structure
have a
in the front
structure in the
setback.
first 30 feet.
So, okay, when you're saying front setback, you're not meaning it can't be in the front of the house, are you?
If the very front of the house is right at the 20-foot line, nothing in the driveway to the sidewalk,
But there's a
structure.
condition. Do you see my point? There's a condition. It can be in the front of your house if it meets that 20 feet. It's not,
Correct.
no one is
You
allowed
are
to have a
right.
carport in the front. So if you told her, no, I'm not going to issue it to you because you can't have it in the front of your house, that's not the full picture.
Well, that's not what she said. She says it doesn't meet the front setback.
What does that mean to you? Does that, to the common person, what does the front setback mean? I can't issue a permit because it's in the front setback. To me, that means we just don't issue carports for anyone in the front of the house. There was no
No.
condition given.
No, as a builder, when we come in and we provide or we ask for a building permit, many times there are conditions that are given to us. Okay, and so one of the things is always the setback, just as I explained, from the utility easement. This is built in a utility easement. That's a public utility easement. They don't even own that part of the property. Then there's a 20-foot setback. Doreen explained that it could not be in the front if it went into the setback. And so she's correct on the 20-foot because the 20-foot is theirs. But the 10-foot is a public utility easement. Nobody builds in that. And that's where this is.
But my point is, what was the information that was provided to the citizen who went to ask for the permit?
Well, according to her.
And I'm hearing a contradiction.
Okay. Any other questions for this applicant from the commission? Thank you.
Excuse me, I know you say you have letters from some of the neighbors that disapprove of the structure
Thank you,
being
Brian.
up. I did a carport petition throughout the neighborhood, if you'd like to have it, where I had neighbors say they support the fact of the carport being put up, as well as a letter from a neighbor saying that they approve of the carport being in place.
And the one is from the direct neighbor that's right next door to us.
Wrote that letter there.
Thank you.
I mean, I went out and I took pictures all throughout Ridgecrest of carports. You talk about a code regulation, code violation. If you look at these pictures, you will see throughout Ridgecrest, obviously no one is in compliance with that code.
Well, that's true, ma'am, but we're not here discussing everybody
but
else.
I'm just saying, this is something, that's what was misleading us. From what I was told when I went and asked for a permit, from what I was told by the company we purchased the structure from, and then I traveled throughout Ridgecrest and I see all these carports up, it's misleading.
Thank you. I'd like to turn this portion of it over to the public, if there is public that would like to address this particular matter. Be sure and give your name and your address. We won't ask that.
Thank you. Just had a birthday. My name is Mary Lundstrom. I live at 825 Randall Street. And I've lived in that neighborhood since the track was built back in '84, I think it is. And we do have deed restrictions for the neighborhood. Everybody that buys a house in there gets a copy of the deed restrictions. And it says, no structure shall be erected, altered, placed, or permitted to remain on any building plot in the subdivision that will not conform to the Uniform Building Code as adopted by the city. It also goes on to say, no camper, trailer, motor coach, boat, or other vehicle may be parked in the street or parked on the front 20 feet of the lot for more than 3 days at a time. That was the reason why I moved to this neighborhood, because we did have restrictions. Because if you do have even an RV parked in your driveway, I have a neighbor that parks in his driveway, his RV on occasion. I can't get out of my driveway. I can't back out and see where I'm going. And when I saw this, I was driving down the street going to work, and I saw that, and I took a double take, and I went, what the heck is that? And who allowed that to be put up? And my other question is, are there footings for those posts? Because a driveway doesn't have the footings to support something like that. Those are my comments, and I don't think it should be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Stevens at 730 Sonia.
Yes, sir.
And the carport's something that I recognized that when it was built that didn't conform to the code, but something that I personally was not going to object to. But going through the step of actually now perhaps formally approving its existence, to me, essentially grants the possibility of a number of others appearing in the neighborhood. And to me, that would totally ruin the aesthetics of what is a very nice neighborhood. And I think would affect property values, just affect the looks of the neighborhood as such. So on that basis, I would object to it. I think essentially formally granting the waiver would open the door for the spread of those through the neighborhood, and that I think would be a detriment.
Thank you, sir.
Look, Brenda Burnett, 735 Sonia Avenue, down the street. I was on the city council way back in the late 70s, early 80s. And at that time, the city of Ridgecrest was pretty much run by a bunch of good old boys who didn't believe in city governments and didn't think we should have building codes and didn't think we should have setback laws. And I would hate to see us set the precedent that we're willing to return to those practices. Building codes, setback laws are for citizen safety. And all of those conditions you mentioned for a variance are meant to be applied before a structure is built. Variances are applied for if it is required to get a permit and if there are the proper reasons to do that. I think those are good procedures. We apply for a permit. If necessary, we apply for a variance if we meet all the requirements. I don't think there should ever be set the precedent of granting a variance just because something went in without a permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Commissioners? Question or discussion?
Chairman, in my opinion, the question of variance comes when you really have a building permit. So in this case, we don't have a building permit, so where is the question of variance at all?
So also for me, some of the concerns are no plan check, no wind loading. I put solar on my house and it had to certify to 120 miles an hour. And this is a sale. No foundation or inspection and no permit. Now, granted, the applicant is correct. We have them all over town. And I think that my biggest concern is that it doesn't meet the setbacks. It's in the public utility easement, as well as it doesn't meet the setbacks. Some of this can, in my opinion, if you've got an ambulance or a fire truck going down the road, where's the house number? You know, is it obstructed? And then, like I talked about, sometimes it's for me, it's the obstruction to have a view. Just like cars have that small blind spot, you might change lanes. It's not very big. But you can miss something and back into a car, and even if it's not a high use. So those are some of my concerns personally. It doesn't meet, in my opinion, any of the 5 requirements in order for us to approve it. And those are the things that we have to look at. Variances are very hard to get, and they have to meet the conditions. And anyway, that's my opinion. Any other comment from the commission?
So my comment is that the code, the purpose of our code and why we have the setback is so that we can have public safety measures for transportation and such. None of the complaints we got were regarding obstruction. The person who would be, and I went through this neighborhood several times to really think this over and did not see obstruction. I mean, in terms of no more than if someone had a bush or a tree there. And the one person who would have complained about it would have been the neighbor next door who signed the petition. So if the complaints are about aesthetics, aesthetics is not in our municipal code. And if I want to paint my house tie-dye tomorrow, you know, I can do that according to the municipal code. I'm going to get a ton of complaints, but we don't live in one giant HOA. And so that's my concern for this precedence as well. I think if the reason we have this code is we're concerned about transportation and we're concerned about, the location is not on a main thoroughfare, it's in a closed loop neighborhood, it's not like something if it was on Norma or Downs or China Lake. So to me, the reason we have that code is if it's obstructing. It has nothing to do with aesthetics, and that has not been the reason we've heard complaints. And I think that if no one had complained about just the aesthetics of it, if it wasn't in a very nice neighborhood, we would not be here tonight. And I think that it's a matter of opinion and that she does meet the qualifications for variance.
So, any other commissioners? I would consider the CC&Rs, which they had a part of as the deed restriction when they bought it. It's still in the public utility easement, even if we ignore the setback. Any other questions? If not, then I will hear a motion.
A motion to approve the variance 18-01. Need a second?
Okay, you made a motion to approve it.
I'm sorry, a motion to vote on it. Sorry.
No, I need a motion to accept, to grant the variance or deny the variance.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, to accept the variance.
I second.
Chairman Cox?
No.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
No.
Commissioner Yates?
Yay.
Commissioner Ferris?
No.
Commissioner Dehan?
Yay.
3 noes, motion fails.
Okay, moving on to the next subject. This is B in your agenda. So if there was any confusion, the variance was not granted. This is SBR 18-03, RCA Church. A negative declaration, the request to expand the existing church facility at 800 West Upjohn Avenue, APN 477-030-30 and 477-030-32 by granting a site plan approval for a 14,640 square foot auditorium and expanded off-street parking facilities and corresponding environmental negative declaration. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Tonight we're going to open up a public hearing and hear testimony regarding a negative declaration, and we're also going to be looking at approving of the site plan 18-03. As you had indicated in your report, there is a construction of a 14,640 square foot church auditorium and associated off-street parking. The project is located at 800 West Upjohn, APN number 477-030-30. Background on this, Calvary Assembly of God of Ridgecrest Church had been congregating in Ridgecrest since 1955 and has been meeting at its present location since 1984. The current church facility is on a 5.08 acre parcel at the northeast corner of Down Street and Upjohn Avenue, receiving planning approval originally back in August of 1980. A conditional use permit, CUP 80-45, was issued to allow for construction of a church, social hall, and educational facilities at the site, which was zoned for single-family residential use at that time. The church-owned property also included 2 adjoining vacant parcels and a residential lot in the far northeast corner. The parcels fronting on Upjohn have been rezoned neighborhood commercial, CN. Since the construction of the existing facility, the northeasterly parcels remain within the R1 single-family residential zone. The site plan approved in 1980 called for construction of 8 buildings totaling 65,180 square feet, but only a sanctuary, fellowship hall, and 2 of the proposed classrooms were constructed. The total footprint of the existing building is 11,432 square feet. With that, Commissioners, we have before you a site plan as well as a negative declaration for your review. Staff would recommend approval of the negative declaration and also approval of the site plan review for 18-03. Staff would also want to include the fact that one of the conditions was that the striping for the parking lot be striped in conformance to our current standards for parking. Currently on their site plan, they're showing single striping, and our municipal code requires double striping with the 1 foot wide delineation between parking stalls. All the other conditions that we have are, we had some street light upgrades as far as public works conditions, some street lighting concerns. We also had a concern for merging one of the off-site parcels. They have an off-site sump to take care of their runoff from the site. The site plan does indicate, and calculations have been presented for taking care of the on-site drainage retention. With that, staff recommends opening up the public hearing and also the Commission's consideration of a negative declaration and the approval of site plan 18-03.
Thank you. So let me back up before we move on to this, now that I've convoluted it. I need to, 2 things. On that last action, we need to have an approval of a motion to close that public hearing, which I didn't do. So I'd need a motion from the Commission to close that particular item on the public hearing docket. It's just a parliamentary procedure. Okay, on the carport.
So moved.
Second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Yates,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan.
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to this. Any questions from the Commission?
I just have one question. I need to find out from the church if they are okay with the double striping and 20 feet wide spacing for the parking.
Someone here from the church?
Good evening, Rich Marotti, 1715 South Garth Street. I'm going to be the general contractor and project manager for the project. I've went through your notes. printed them out this morning, and we don't have an objection to that. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, we're right now in the planning stages, so it's our architect is aware, and he's working on that process right now. So widening it is not an issue.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Culp, would you talk to us about the striping in the church?
Yes, in staff's review of the parking area, we found that there are, the site plan provides for 171 off-site parking spaces. It's an increase of 88 spaces when compared to existing conditions. A portion of the proposed building will be located on a portion of the existing parking lot, which will be demolished. New parking will be provided to the north and west of the existing paved area, utilizing a driveway approach that was recently constructed as a part of the raft of public improvements and ADA upgrades, along with the site. Post-development and previous, well, that deals with the stormwater, but what staff found, though, is there's more than adequate room to comply to the off-street parking requirements with even the double striping.
That's what I wanted. Any other commissioner comments? Anything for the developer? The church? Okay, thank you. I'll turn the time over to the public for any public comment on this item. Seeing nobody rushing up to the table, I would entertain a motion.
So do we need two motions or one motion? One
well,
for negative declaration, one for approval.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt a negative declaration and approve SPR 18-03 for allowing construction of a 14,640 square foot church auditorium.
Okay, with double striping or single striping? Because they're asking for...
That's what the resolution says, double striping, right?
Right.
So, and they agreed for that, so it should not be a problem.
Okay. I second that.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Second.
Second.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8, discussion and other action.
Pardon me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
There are two resolutions that require your action tonight. The first resolution is for 18-13, which is for the actual site plan, and then another resolution which would be approving the negative declaration.
1814 and what?
1813 is the one for the approval of the site plan and conditions of approval. And then I lost the number. It was
1814.
There are two resolutions. 18-12 is the approving the negative declaration.
Got that right. Do you need another resolution?
His motion was for both, correct?
Say that again.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam's motion was for both. It was for the approval of the negative declaration.
Yeah, but we didn't name them by number.
Okay.
Okay.
And so it's correct.
Yeah. I make a motion to adopt a negative declaration SPR 18-0
12 and 13.
12 and 13.
I second.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, moving on to our item 8, discussion and other action items in order of collection of abatement costs, Kern County Auditor Controller's Office for special assessment. And we'll turn this over to Officer Booth.
Okay, good evening. This is for the order of collection of abatement costs by the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office by special assessment. The Kern County Auditor Controller's Office takes special assessment submittals once per year, with submittals required to be in their office no later than June 22nd, 2018. As an alternative to the recording and foreclosure of an abatement lien, the order for collection of abatement costs may require such that costs shall be imposed as a special assessment against the property on which the nuisance was abated. In such cases, a certified copy of the order for collection of abatement costs shall be transmitted to the county tax assessor and tax collector, whereupon it shall be the duty of the tax assessor and tax collector to add the amounts of abatement costs as a special assessment on the next regular bill for real estate taxes levied against the respective properties identified in the order. Kern County Auditor Controller's Office requires a resolution to be passed, which includes a list of all parcels with a flat amount as an exhibit, cites state law sanctioning assessment, California Government Code Section 38773.1 and C, must state that the district is in compliance with Proposition 218. Authorization order for the Auditor Controller's Office to place our assessments on the tax roll be filed with the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office by August 10, 2018. This resolution verifies to the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office that the city district in question is aware of the charges to be placed as a special assessment and that all proper procedures have been followed. The advantage of placing a special assessment on the real estate taxes is that they will continue to be due until paid or the property sold at a tax auction with no time limit or expiration limit. A lien, on the other hand, will expire after 10 years if not renewed. 3 years ago, my office received a demand for payment for 2 liens for properties that were abated in 2001 and 2003, amounting to over $10,000. However, since these liens were never renewed and the costs were not placed as a special assessment on the real estate taxes, the city was unable to collect that amount. Research by the city attorney revealed Government Code Section 54988C states that a lien imposed pursuant to abatement shall have the same force, priority, and effect as a judgment lien. This means that the lien has a 10-year lifespan pursuant to Code of Civil Procedure Section 683.180. If not renewed within that time, the lien expires. Submission of special assessments were forwarded to the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office on May 29, 2018. On June 5, 2018, I was notified they were accepted. In order for them to be placed on the tax rolls of the properties, this resolution must be approved and mailed to them no later than August 10, 2018. The total amount of liens to place as special assessment in this resolution is $17,810.48. Total amount collected from lien special assessments since I've been on board is $38,948.47. It is recommended that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution for the assessment as described in Exhibit A to the resolution authorizing an order for collection of abatement costs to be entered and extended on the property tax rolls, and pursuant to law, the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office include such amounts on the tax bill applicable to the property for collection therein as a special assessment for the collection of the abatement cost.
Thank you. Commissioners' comments?
I think we are glad we are doing this. I appreciate Officer Booth to be being on top of these things. Thank you very much.
Yes. All right, so I move that we approve Resolution 18-14, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing the order of collection of abatement costs by the Kern County Auditor Controller's Office by special assessment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner DeHaan?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Booth, for your time. Moving on to our item B, amended tentative parcel map, 11-524, an application to divide 17.59 acre parcels into 2 parcels in order to more easily phase a condominium development. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, tonight staff's recommendation is going to be to adopt the Resolution 18-15, which is granting approval for an amended tentative parcel map 11524, and that extension would that approval would go through June 26th of 2020 per our municipal code. There's some background on this project. On August 8th of 2006, the Planning Commission duly considered and approved the tentative tract map 6869, a request to create 159 single-family residential lots on 42.71 gross acres. Related to this tentative tract map approval were 4 other entitlement applications, one of which is tentative parcel map 11524, which reconfigured the parent parcels. Tentative tract map 6870, a request to create 123 condominiums on 17.59 acres immediately to the north of tentative tract map 6869, with zone change 0604, which rezoned a portion of the property in question for its intended use, and general plan amendment 06-03, which made the corresponding adjustments to the general plan. All 4 of these applications were approved at that meeting. Tentative parcel map 11524 has been kept valid through August 8th of 2018. Through a combination of special extensions and granted by the state legislature and a discretionary extension granted by Planning Commission in October of 2009, the applicant is now seeking approval for an amended version of this map, which divides the northerly parcel depicted on the original 2006 map into 2 parcels to facilitate an intended phasing for condominium development on the northerlymost 17.56 acres of the map. This project is located, if you look, it's located along Dolphin, Sunland, South Sunland, and also along Baton Avenue. It's in the general vicinity of where the new Walmart is located and the Christian Community Center in that neighborhood. The parcel map the parcel map is being reconfigured in order to accommodate rephase or allow phasing of the condominium portion of the project. That offers the developer some ability in his financing of the project to limit his exposure and to build relative to market demands. Staff has looked at the conditions of approval, and there will be additional map or site plan reviews for this project. You will have site plan review of the condominium projects, so there will be additional conditioning as this project progresses. Again, this is just the parent or base map, which is being divided for the benefit of the developer to be able to phase his development and have better flexibility in financing and meeting market demands.
Thank you. Commissioner, comments?
I have a question. Do they have a start date, tentative start date? Any guesstimation of a?
I'm afraid that your current staff setting here is not privileged to conversations with the developer on that. Again, we're kind of setting in for staff that had authored this staff report for you. My understanding from what I have been in meetings with this developer is that they have an intent to start right away. They realize the housing demands made upon our community, and they're willing to jump right in and get rolling.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what they told Penn. They're very well aware of what the Navy is needing, and they're wanting to move forward. Any other questions from the Commission?
I just have one question. The resolution does not have any verbiage for lighting and landscape maintenance district.
The individual tracks that are associated with this do have that requirement.
Okay.
And you will have additional ability to condition those developments as they occur, particularly the condominium developments. You will be able to have a site plan review on those. And the other tracks associated with that, those do have lighting and landscape maintenance districts in their current conditions of approval.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I just have one question. It's not relative to this because the decision we're to make is whether to allow the split of the property. But the question I have for the engineer, have they given you any indication, or are they planning on finishing Dolphin all the way to College Heights?
Yes, the individual tract developments that comprise this particular parent map or base map, they do have conditions for doing Dolphin, Sunland, as well as Baton.
Okay. That's what I was interested in, is how you're going to move traffic. So, any other questions from the Commission? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Yes?
Public comment, Judy.
Any comment from the public? Thank you. No? Okay. Back to the Commission. I would entertain a motion to approve PC Resolution 18-15, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest approving amended tentative parcel map 11-524 to create 5 parcels ranging from 8.76 to 14.68 acres on a 60.3 acre parcel. APN 343-351-04 and 5 and 09 and 13.
Second.
Also move.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Go
Second.
ahead. There you go.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Abstain.
Commissioner Dehan?
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Turning on your back page here on item C, we're going to send that back for some additional information, so we won't hear that tonight. On the tentative track map 6814 extension. We'll move on to 9 commissioner items or comments. Committee reports. Start with Jessica.
Well, we haven't met for quality of life in a couple months, actually, since the City Council approved the tax assessment that we were working on. And then I was on order, so I missed the infrastructure meeting in May.
Thank you. Bill?
I will let Cecil discuss economic development, and quality of life has not met, like Jessica said.
Economic development, we had a really interesting, I think it was the second time we had a presentation from a communications group that's interested in bringing broadband here with the gigabyte and fiber optics. So we were trying to encourage them to make the pitch before City Council, just to act, for the city to get behind it, because they actually are looking at doing a survey throughout the city to get feedback from the residents as to pricing and what they have to offer. So they're called Race Communications.
Terrific.
That was the bulk of our meeting. We also did had some feedback on the shopping conference. ICSC. I always say that wrong. But I think that the one that we hired to do those meetings was busy, so they were going to get back with us on how those meetings went. So.
Okay. Solomon?
I was not there for City Org, so I apologize.
I was there, but I can't remember.
And infrastructure would be this Thursday, but it was canceled, or last Thursday because of scheduling. So, yeah, we kind of drew a blank almost here tonight, didn't we? So, okay, Commissioner comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
For my education, so for the variance that applicant put in, which shows an application fee of $1,560, does that mean that she paid that money already? Yes. And is that money being refunded since?
Yes, in order to file, in order to apply for a variance, yes, per our code and per our fee code, per our fees by resolution, the applicant must pay those fees in order to have it presented before the Planning Commission.
And then it's not refunded if it's denied?
No, it's non-refundable.
Part of that is the advertising requirement of a public hearing, and generally it's about $400
Mm-hmm.
To make the runs that it has to run.
So then are they not refunded the difference of that $400?
You know, I see the notes here, the $1,560, and Penn put down $350, so I don't know what actually was collected. So,
whatever monies went into putting this variance before us is all non-refundable.
Yes.
From what I understand.
Yes. Any other comments? Jessica?
No.
I think as the planning department itself, I think they got a little cattywampus because I think if literature would have been given from day one, this would have been cut and dry. I really don't think those residents would have put that up had they had the code in their hands saying this is what you can and cannot do. Understand some people you can't talk to and explain it. That's why it's just easier with the literature. You know, I when this first came about, I called down here and I talked to staff and I began to ask questions. What kind of processes do you have at the desk when a citizen comes in requesting something? Is there any literature to exchange hands? How do you educate just the average resident because they don't know code? So that was my question for the young lady that worked at the desk. I wanted to know what kind of information changed hands, because if none changed hands, then we get into your word versus their word.
Sure.
So.
Can I piggyback real quick?
Sure.
I was not trying to be disrespectful. My point that I was trying to make was, what does front setback mean to you? Now, to you as an experienced planning commissioner, you understand key. That means 20 feet from the road, and then you got the public easement of 10 feet. So you understand that. I'm trying to think about it from their perspective.
Sure.
And that's what I was trying to say. Just that she might say, oh, we don't issue it for the front. And, the front setback. She might have said setback. But if that's not explained what that means, that's all I was trying to say.
But Jessica, again, if they if they don't understand, they should seek clarification. So what do you mean by that? I would do that. I will be very careful before I do anything. In this case, they didn't. My heart goes out to them actually. So no doubt about that, because they have to remove this structure now. But we are here to enforce the code, and I think we should be able to do our job judiciously. And variances we cannot give just like that. I mean, there is a genuine case, then we give variance, very rare exceptions. That's my point of view on this.
So what do we think about business owners who are licensed in Ridgecrest but don't have to follow the municipal code?
Well, that is a concern, and the building department has began process to actually address some of that. I remember probably a year ago an infrastructure committee where the direction was given to staff to inform all those that have business licenses that are putting up awnings that they're required to have a footing or having a building permit or inspections, that it had to meet wind loading. So, and I didn't take it as disrespectful, Jessica, and I think it's important that you speak your mind here. For me, be mindful when you have CC&Rs, you buy a house, it's a deed restriction, you sign off on that. When you come in and you are told that it won't meet code, even if you don't have explanation and you build it anyway, that is a concern. If you're building in the public right-of-way, that is a concern. And so the idea for me wasn't the location. It was a beautiful awning, quite frankly. But the truth of the matter is you can deal with public safety, you can deal with aesthetics, you can deal with everything else. But we really have to have some sort of uniform codes that we adhere to. Now, as the one lady talked about here, she was a councilwoman a long time ago. If you just kind of do what you want, then we're going to have challenges. And I could cite a number of instances that came in the city's sites here recently, but I think that digresses. But I think it's important to look at what are the rules, and especially when it comes to a variance. They have to meet all 5 of these. And you'll have to, because, I stopped periodically just kind of digest, but, some of it is do they meet it? And you have to go through as a commissioner and say, they meet this, they meet this, they meet this, they meet this. If they don't meet all 5, it's no. If we follow the rules. Now, if we follow our heart, we can do something else. But truthfully, we are the heavy lifting for the city council. Now, they can appeal it, and I probably should have announced that they could appeal that to the city council. Okay. Okay. So and that was a mistake on my part. But there is recourse. But they were told that it wouldn't comply, and they built it anyway. And for me, I have a hardship with that. Same thing. You treat a patient and they don't do what you say, and they come back and say, "What'd you do wrong?" Well, same kind of thing. So we all have to follow the rules, whether it's banking, construction, medical field, hotels, all of it, anything that we do, we have to kind of follow the rules. And there are conditions, and you weren't on the Planning Commission. We did approve a variance for an awning on Balsam. It was not in the front, it was to the side yard. And it did meet setback, and there were conditions that it made it so we approved that. But they're very, very, very rare that we do that. I think the 4 of us were here. I don't know if you were. Do you remember that? And so there are times, but they're very rare that you would grant one of those to go outside of CC&Rs or the building code, because it makes it hard for everybody if we interfere with those setbacks. Anyway, any of the other commissioners?
I was just thinking that I sort of have a problem with this company that's setting these carports up. Yeah, and actually I looked at this name here, and I believe this is a local name on this. So if somebody's practicing within the city and is not following the code, I think that's something that staff needs to address as well.
Well, and be mindful. Remember, I read from their own sheet, that third sheet.
Well, and I understand that, but there should be some sort of liability there for that company.
I agree.
And I'm sure as a builder, you don't just build whatever somebody asks you to. You know if it applies or if it will fall under some sort of code, and if they need a variance. Because honestly, if they would have come here in September or October and said, "Hey, we would like to do this and we'd like a variance," it would have been denied then, and they wouldn't have this carport built in their front yard and now have to have it torn out.
Right. So maybe what you're saying is recommend to staff, Lauren,
yeah.
if we have, give him this local contact.
Well, it's on here, and I'll talk to him.
Okay. We need to make sure that anybody that has a building or city business license,
right.
That they're aware that it is their responsibility to meet the municipal code.
Mr. Chairman, we have actually been working on that.
Okay. Well, and that's why I said it was given to staff, probably a year ago. But, yeah, this person probably ought to be contacted specifically. Okay? Is that what you were thinking?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay. Any other? Cecil?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank Lauren for filling in, being that we don't have planning department right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Because I was wondering who was going to do staff report, and you bailed us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Solomon?
Thank you.
Heather, thanks for stepping up. You're on your own. And Lauren, thanks for stepping up. And thank Doreen for coming and being present for that, as well as Officer Booth. Since he's not here to thank for his hard work, we certainly appreciate him. Future agenda items, I would like to have, if we know, where's Red Rock?
We will hear Red Walk at the July meeting.
Okay. Any other items coming forth that we know of? Some of the back items. What's happening with Starbucks and Emmanuel Baptist? Lauren?
Yes, we met with Starbucks. We met at Starbucks driveway with Pastor Logan and two of the elders of the church. And we have authorized our contractor to proceed with the reconstruction of the driveway by extending it to the west by 16 feet. The pastors and the pastor and the elders agreed that they would be taking care of the paving, match-up paving. So we are still we're still under our prior year fiscal year budget. We have to wait until this next this July for the next fiscal year before we can issue a PO to our contractor. We have issued a start to work on this July for that driveway widening project. So it's moving right along.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Culp, who is paying for the demolition of the existing curbs and all?
The city manager authorized us to go ahead and pay for the widening of the. We had solicited informal bids. We had a very good bid for widening the driveway. It was within the city manager's ability to authorize that amount, and so he's decided that he would authorize that to proceed. Starbucks, by the way, they kind of did a crawfish on me. Originally, they were going to construct it and they were going to take it out to the full 44-foot width as it originally existed, and it moved up to a higher administrative level, and all of a sudden they said, well, we're not going to construct it, but we will contribute to the reconstruction. So they're waiting for me to then speak with the Public Works Director and the City Manager as to what we would ask for a contribution.
So the church is just paying for the paving, is that right?
Yes, the elders and the pastor met with us, and they thought that they could easily handle the paving cost.
Okay, thank
Any other items? I know we had items with Arby's and that came to us, and they were looking for locations and didn't take the one. Any other items that you're aware of that are coming before us?
I think we have a tentative list, do we not, Heather, that we can offer the commissioners on what we have coming up?
We have a tentative track map for property owned by the Mathers. We'll hear that next month. And we're going to have an extension on the Warrens map. That's TPM 12200. So those are in process right now.
Okay, are these just extensions, or are they actually wanting to move forward with the development? Or do you know?
The Mathers is, it's a new map, right?
Yes, it's a new map. Their map had expired, and so they're reapplying with a new map.
Okay. Anything from staff, Lauren?
Well, I can give you a rundown on projects where we're at.
Okay.
Public Works, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. Our South Sunland CMAQ project, we're currently out to bid. We had a pre-bid meeting last week, and we are scheduled to open bids on July 3rd. And that project is paving the South Sunland between Bowman and Dolphin. We were also notified that we made the list for a CMAQ project for East Dolphin, and that project is between China Lake Boulevard and College Heights. We've been authorized to, or at least it's going to make the FTIP for East Dolphin. It looks like we would be responsible for the cost of the design and any of the environmental compliance requirements, and what we'd be eligible for is funding for the actual construction. But we had submitted Dolphin as a project to KernCog. It had originally been denied, and after some projects had fallen out of the CMAQ program, we were notified that Dolphin was back in the list. We do have a tentative approval or a contingent street improvement for Tamarisk as a CMAQ project, and that'd be repaving that narrowed portion of Tamarisk, and that's between Downs and North Inyo Street. On our our Downs Street projects, we had some good news. On the 14th, the Public Works Director and I and Karen Harker met with our District 9, and at that meeting we were notified that our RSTP grant had made the FTIP for the west side of Downs, and that is between Ridgecrest Boulevard and Upjohn. You may know that we currently have an RSTP project for the east side of Downs, which we have secured design and environmental funding for. And right now we are approaching our, applying for our E76 to allow us to proceed with the construction. So we do have some preliminaries that we have to do. We have some easement acquisitions that we have to do on both sides of the street. We do have a proposal from our subconsultant to provide us with that acquisition services for those easements. Most of those easements are to accommodate Southern California Edison and the relocation of the poles and some of their pertinent facilities to those poles, such as guy poles and guy wires and such. So very happy to announce that we do, and we're successful in our application for the west side of Downs. So now we have federal funding for both design and construction for Downs Street for that particular reach. There is, of course, matching funds the city has that we have to contribute to. And, of course, we still have to amend some contracts with our consultant for these acquisition services and some additional minor design for the west side of Downs. You may know some of the history of this. We've completely designed all of that section of Downs, and it's ready to go. If we had funds, city funds right now, we could go to bid tomorrow with that. But having to go through the federal program with Caltrans administering, it's quite burdened with paperwork and requirements there that we have to follow. So with that, we're very happy that we've made those projects now on the Federal Register. We have a Bowman sewer repair project that's we're very near completion and design. We had it's a part of our sewer line replacement repair program for this year. This is one of the phases. The first year was, of course, doing the slip lining and the replacement of the Church Street sewer line. This year's program is right now we're just starting on the Bowman sewer to repair the sewer line that's in the intersection of Bowman and Downs. We also have our Bowman intersection project. We're finishing the design work on that intersection. We've nearly got that completed, and we're right on the doorstep to be able to try to ask Caltrans to move funds forward to help expedite that project and move into construction. So we're in a very good position to ask for monies to move forward so we can get that started early. We also have our crosswalk project, which is a HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Project. That also is very near completion. The consultants ask us if there's some of the tasks that we can do as Public Works, and one of the things is some milling of the roadway surfaces to accommodate ADA compliance. Some of the crosswalks, as they approach the lip of the gutter, exceed 5% or have a lip of asphalt that needs to be milled down, and our Public Works Department has been able to step up, and they're going to be able to provide that service for some of those crosswalk locations. And again, there's 12 of them, and they're generally for at school zones, and that's the ladder type striping on the crosswalk with rapid flashing beacons that can be activated as a student approaches those crosswalks. We've got a bike path project, which is resurfacing the Bowman bike path. We had RFPs out for engineering services to help us get the bid documents together for that surface, and those RFPs have been received. We're currently evaluating those to select a consultant that will help us with those bid documents and plans. We also have solicited proposals for the Systematic Street Assessment Report Project. It was a federal grant, $75,000 to have a consultant evaluate our streets to look for high incidences of accidents and pedestrian traffic and conflicts. As a part of that, we're also going to be doing speed surveys throughout the city, as well as volume counts throughout our city for roadway volumes, traffic volumes, I should say. We're also going to be looking at our stop signs to prepare our traffic warrants for our stop signs. Anyway, we've selected a consultant, and we're currently negotiating the fee for those services. I know I've got others out there, but that's just about what I can just recite off the top of my head. So we've got a very...
That's not very many.
We've got a few irons in the fire there.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Would you do one more favor for the commission?
Certainly.
Would you ask Bard to maybe create or have created a handout that's at the desk for Doreen? You know, if you're building a metal awning, the requirements of.
Oh, that's a very good. I was thinking of that as some way of helping the public, a visual aid, a drawing that would.
What are the setbacks? Front, side, back.
Exactly.
Wind loading, footings, all those kinds of things, and then Heather, if you're contacting those that are licensed or have business licenses here in town. Provide them a copy of that as well, that this is what the city is requiring. That way they know that, you know, they can't claim ignorance if we can. What's happening to the ADA improvements on Ridgecrest Boulevard?
Oh, that's good news. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, we had just received the county's document, the county's CDBG documents that had been approved by their board. It's gone through our council. We've got our approvals. Our city attorney has reviewed it and approved it. It's gone to county. County council has reviewed it. The supervisors have approved it. So we have the document now. The only thing we're doing now is amending the bid documents for the dates in which the advertising will occur and the date in which the bids will be opened. And so we will be advertising that as well.
Good.
We are launching that as soon as we get the cover page on our bid documents.
Is everybody aware of what that is? When they built the road, the new road at Ridgecrest Boulevard, some of the driveways and that are not ADA compliant, so they're tipped. And so we're having the handicapped out in the road because it can tip them over. And so we're going back and correcting that through a program so that they can stay up on the sidewalk instead of being out in the street. The bulb outs kind of make it hard for bicyclists, but now put a motorized wheelchair or something in there. And so we've been working on that for what? Almost 2 years?
Yes, these projects are through the Community Development Block Grant Program, are administered by the county. These are HUD programs, and they have quite a number of requirements to use that money. It goes back and forth several iterations for environmental compliance, for approving the plans, for getting the agreement between the city and county. It's a very long-term process for utilizing CDBG grant funds.
It'll just make foot traffic and that up and down that corridor much easier, I think. Anything that you can share with us on the Navy and the sewer plant?
I don't have anything that at my staff level at mid-management that I would feel comfortable in offering to the Planning Commission. I think I would need the administrative staff to speak directly to you regarding that.
Okay. Anything else? Then if that's the case, I'll close this meeting at 7:34. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.